What's going on? I am stoked for today's episode because we have probably one of the most high-profile Entrepreneur of the Year, CEO and founder of Legacy Power, Mr. Doug Robinson in the house. So
hey, great to be with you. I'm excited to be here. Thanks for inviting me to be on today.
Yeah, I'm excited. And we're here in the home office. Got a great office just overlooking the mountains and everything. So
yeah, it's been really fun to see it grow here. You know, they call it Silicon Slopes here.
Yeah.
So many tech companies and just a beautiful environment, ton of tech growing, and it's been a great place to grow a solar business.
Yeah, I can tell. Yeah, no, my parents, we were talking before, my parents live right down the road here in Highland, and 6 years ago when they moved out here, or maybe it's like 8 years, there's none of this, so I'm sure you've seen it grow it down too.
Yeah, nothing, and wild how small of a world it is.
Yeah.
It's great to connect.
Yeah, for sure. But I'm excited because, we've had some owners of dealers, things like that on, but I don't think we've had anyone that's running as big of an organization as you guys, so I'm excited to hear just how you're growing and what's taking you guys to the next level. But do you want to give us I know you cut your teeth in door-to-door, you've been in this forever. When did you start door-to-door and everything?
Yeah, great question. So I think my entrepreneurial journey starts back when I was, a young kid. We had a family lawn care business. And I remember going door-to-door with flyers for my brothers because they would mow and trim and they'd say, go lay these flyers out or, go knock on doors and see if people want their lawns mowed. So this is when I was, probably early 90s, doing that. So didn't really recognize it as door-to-door. It was just go get the neighbors to be able to cut their lawns. So it's my first early memories of doing it. And then as a student athlete, played a little bit of junior college football, had a good run there. It was a great time of life. I served an LDS mission in Eastern Europe. So I went to Romania and learned Romanian, was there for 2 years and did door-to-door on my mission. And, I learned to communicate with people. I think that was a big part of my journey of growth and development. When you get outside your comfort zone, that's where real learning takes place. And for me, at 19 years old, going to Eastern Europe, knocking on doors to talk about my belief set, what it is, and it's not always received with, the most, that topic can be polarizing, I think. And so, you face rejection. You face a lot of rejection, and learning that skill set transpired into when I returned home, I needed to make some money. I was a student athlete, I was broke, had no money and needed to figure it out. I wanted to get married, I wanted to provide. As I looked at my options out there, a buddy of mine, Brandon Ripplinger is his name. He's one of my mentors, great friends, even still today. He's a varsity wrestling coach here in Utah, one of the high schools now. But we've stayed in touch, but he invited me to sell door to door. And I didn't know what it was. I just knew that it was an opportunity, and so he invited me to come and sell satellites, Dish Network and DirecTV, door to door, and that was in 2002. So that's when I started, cut my teeth in the door to door satellite space.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you're like a dinosaur in the door to door space.
I know, man. It's crazy. It's been a long time, and met a lot of amazing people, had a lot of amazing experience, and I've had some lows too. I don't think anybody's journey is straight up. I think it's a series of ups and downs and sideways, but that's where I got started. But I married my high school sweetheart. It actually worked out. He's an orthopedic surgeon and somebody that I highly respect, but I remember early on trying to gain his trust and admiration. Right? You want your father-in-law to respect you, and that's, it's like a motivator for me to provide for his daughter. And I remember you're going to do door to door, you're going to provide through door to door, and I was this is what I'm going to do. This is my career, and I was stoked about it. But I think that was a big motivator for me, was proving to people that I was enough.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. When I learned yesterday, I didn't know this, but you're the youngest in your family, right?
Yeah, youngest of 5.
Okay. So yeah, that was surprising because I don't know, I just think of my family, my youngest sister. Usually you think they're spoiled. They're not.
Oh yeah, for sure.
We all are. Entrepreneur type.
We all are. We own it.
Yeah.
Spoiled, rotten. It was gifted everything. Was given everything. Just drafting off the coattails of my elder siblings.
Yeah. So I'm man, this guy's a hustler. He started this massive organization and door to door sports and all that. So I don't know. Was your family pretty entrepreneurial? Do you feel you kind of had to hustle throughout your life and everything, or?
Yeah, my home life growing up was always sports, and then very traditional family. My mom almost every day had dinner ready on the table. We'd sit down, have a dinner, and like more formal, like utensils out, that type of stuff, like set table, everything, but very traditional. And I always remember we had conversations with my dad about his business. His business went up and down throughout the years, but we all worked in the family business. He sold product to school systems around the country. That's what he did. And so he would travel during the summers. So my dad being away from home during summers was a very normal thing for my family, because the school systems, that was the sales cycles during the summer. That's when you would sell to the school districts. And so he'd travel the country doing that. But whenever Dad was home, we were always talking through, what business was happening and what was going on and those types of things. So I think I was exposed at a young age to business. That's part of what we did, and I think that really helped a foundation for me of business principles and some of those things. So got to thank my dad. He's one of my heroes, and my siblings as well. I was spoiled. I probably had more than what my older siblings did and those things, but I learned from the things they did good. And I also learned from their mistakes. Seeing them get yelled at and disciplined, I kind of avoided those things in my youth, and I think that was helpful for me.
Yeah. Well, good. You went against the thinking that sometimes the youngest kids are getting the hand out. Are your brothers and are your other siblings, are they entrepreneurs too?
Yeah, many of them are. I look up to all my siblings in so many ways, and they all have, strengths and weaknesses and all those things. It's been a great relationship to build with and see their journeys and learn from their journeys. Some more entrepreneurial than others, but my sister's a crazy hard worker. She's a nurse, and I just respect nurses and what they went through with COVID and, all of that. It's really crazy to look at that industry, but she's somebody who has just a ton of strength and is a real example to me of work ethic and grit, and she'll handle anything. She's like my second mom growing up, and somebody I respect a lot.
Yeah, I gotta hand it to the nurses, work tough hours and all that. It's definitely hustling. So now I can tell you, obviously you came from a great family, kind of entrepreneur background. So I want to get in, I know Legacy, it's been ups and downs, just like every business, but you guys have come out on top, and some stuff has gone down, so I want to hear about that. But I guess before that, I was talking to John Soriano, and he told me to ask you why you decided to name it Legacy and kind of the background behind that. So
yeah, I think there's a lot of things that come into this. The word legacy, it can mean different things to different people. In software, if you have legacy software, it's actually old archaic. That's not a great name, right? Like old archaic software. The word legacy to me, when I think of it, it's who you are and what you're leaving behind, and how you're making the world a better place, and how you're teaching your kids and future generations, and impact. The word impact, how are we impacting lives? Look at your podcast. Look at this, what we're doing. We're going to impact lives. You've impacted a lot of lives by sharing best practices. I think that's awesome. You're leaving your legacy. It's part of your legacy, right? And so for me, there was actually an event that I went to. It was called the Legacy Event, and it was a wealth engineering event that happened in probably 2006. And they invited a bunch of people to, big stage, everything, and they talked about principles of success, but it was called the Legacy Event. And one of the individuals there talked about what he wanted to do was he wanted to have a family bank one day, that future generations could come and get money from the bank, but not because of the bank and the money. That would be the lure in, but in his grandkids and great grandkids and going on through generations, they would have to do certain things, read certain books, accomplish certain tasks to tap into the family bank. And he said, because I've got this bank and accumulated this wealth, their lure will be the money, but I'll be able to teach future generations the principles of success to help them. And he's like, that's the legacy that I want to leave. And I was like, that's bigger thinking than where I was at. I was thinking about how do I make enough to get a new car or whatever. That's where I was at in that time of my life. And here's this guy thinking about generational wealth and how he can train and teach the minds of future generation. And that's the legacy. So that was really cool to me. And then I paired that with a book, Launching a Leadership Revolution. Really cool book. but it talked about 3 tiers of motivation. The first tier of motivation was money. And he said, money will help somebody for a short stint and be like fuel on the fire for a short stint to go and sprint. But after time, that motivation wears off. The second tier of motivation was recognition and respect that he talks about in there. And people will fight to be recognized. That's why we have leaderboards. That's why we have, those types of things to get that recognition. The respect side is really interesting. To be respected amongst your peers, you'll do a lot. But he also talks about self-respect, which I think is cool. Like, do we respect ourselves? Do we have integrity? When nobody's looking, what are we doing? Do we have that self-respect that we have character, which I think is awesome. And then the third tier of motivation was this idea of a legacy. It's your why, it's your purpose, it's beyond money, beyond recognition, beyond that. Like, what is your why and what do you want to do? And mine's all about my family. Like, it's all about my kids, my family. Like, that is number one for me. And so if that's number one for me, and I'm centered on that and my relationship with my maker and what that is, and as that comes together and that creates a foundation, now all of a sudden, what's your why? And my why is to help people become the best versions of themselves, to become the best version of myself, and to help them do it. And when we impact, what I hope that people think about legacy is I became better from my time at Legacy, however time that was. And if they end up competing, which has happened in our business throughout time, I hope they're successful.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I hope they took something good away and that we've impacted their life for good.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, and it's cool because you talked about, before we started recording, and how you're spending more and more time with kids and all that. And I know it's like they're teenagers, so a couple of years they'll be gone from the house and everything. But it's cool you have this, you guys have the values where I've seen it, and like you and John Soriano, I'm sure most of your leaders are the same, and it's cool. Do you feel like that's something that's talked about a lot in the company, is like, the meaning behind the name and like the values? Is that something you guys talk about a lot?
We talk about a ton, yeah. When people onboard, we talk about our mission statement. Whenever I travel, I'm always talking about our mission statement. And our mission statement, it's fairly simple. Part of the mission statement came from the book, The Rhythm of Life. I was up at an event where Coach Peterson was at Boise State, and he was talking about building a football team. I love football. I played a little bit of college, and it was awesome. But I learned from him. He said, when I'm recruiting a player, he said, I don't just look for the best football players. I look for the best people and people who want to strive to become their best selves. And he said, I learned from The Rhythm of Life, and he talked about this book. And Matthew Kelly, I think, is the author. And in that book, it talks about becoming the best version of yourself. So we adopted that as part of our mission statement, where essentially our mission statement is to create an extraordinary customer experience while becoming the best version of ourselves and helping others do the same. It's actually not about solar. It's not about a product. It's not about anything. It's about people. Our business is a people business. The asset within our business is our people. It's our customer care agents. It's our, taking care of our customers. It's our sales support agents that are helping our sales reps. It's our sales reps that are out hustling every day. It's our 500 W-2 employees, from accounting to commissions to everything. Like, these people are what makes Legacy great. It's not me, it's the people inside of it. And I think I just want to surround myself every day with people that have a desire to become their best self. Yeah. Because some people don't. Some people settle out and they just want to try to get by and take the easy road. That's not the people I want to be around. I want to be around people who want to stretch themselves and grow. Yeah. And I think if you have that, you can't be stopped.
Yeah, and I think that's important in solar, because how it is, commissions are so high. Most of our listeners are, on the doors making these insane commissions. And it's like you were saying, I think if you're only money motivated, what's to stop a guy from just going out and getting one sell in the month, making some money? But I think if you think of the other things behind it, the other motivations, that purpose, and I know a lot of guys want to go out and start their own, dealers and solar companies. You guys have built a massive organization, but when you were first starting Legacy, was there a ton of thought behind the name, the mission statement, all this stuff? Because I don't know, I feel like a lot of guys just go on we're gonna call ourselves like, I don't know, the solar killers or something, or like maybe there's not a ton of thought behind the name and purpose and all that. So do you think that was something you thought about as you were starting the company? Was that something you thought about a lot, or is it kind of evolved over time? Or
Great question. When I started in door-to-door, I worked for a company called Atlas Marketing. That was the name of the company I worked with from '02 through '08. And at that business, we grew regions and divisions. But when I started, door-to-door didn't exist really. I didn't know one person that went door-to-door for the summer. Like, I never had met anybody. It kind of wasn't really what it is today. Everybody knows somebody who's done a summer program. A summer program is really didn't exist, or at least to my knowledge didn't exist. And so looking at that, I've seen it evolve where it seems like each team and each region and everything build some sort of their own brand. And for years in the home security business, in '08, when sort of the economy turned and the economy crashed, I pivoted from the satellite industry into the home security and home automation space. Spent the next 7 years in that space. But my region name, as I was growing my sales organization, was called Legacy. So for years I was the Legacy region, and you know, I had elements of our mission statement today was a part of Legacy, become your best self, and become was always a part of it. And so I think it's been an evolution, the name Legacy and becoming your best self, and tying those together for well before Legacy was even created. And so when it came time to start the company and get going and everything, it was a natural fit for us. The letters LGCY and shortening it, many companies will do that from a brand perspective, but also many utilities, PG&E, SDG&E are letters and they're shortened. And then we actually chose the name Power instead of Solar because we felt like it would make the doors a little softer. When we first started in 2014, if you said, hey, I'm with Legacy Solar, you'd say Solar on the doors. Not interested, it's too expensive. You know, so we went the power route of trying to tie ourselves to a power company, not just a solar company.
Okay, I like that. Yeah, well, what's interesting is I've talked with John and some of your other leaders. Don't you guys have kind of like, I know they have like their divisions, like John is over like Valor or something.
That's correct, yeah.
So it sounds like it's kind of a similar thing that you were doing alarms, like your leaders create different divisions type thing.
Yeah, I think people want to belong to a tribe. They want to be a part of something. And I think it's healthy within an organization for people to establish and leaders to establish, you know, what are their core values? What are their principles? What are they relating to? When you first get introduced to something, what's your story? You know, first thing you ask me is tell me about your company name. So similar with any of our leaders, what differentiates them? Why would a rep want to work with a Valor or, you know, any of the other groups within our organization? And so I think that's a normal thing, and I think it's really healthy. I think it keeps internally, it helps John continue to feel and actually be an entrepreneur and continue to grow and evolve, and he's done a great job, as well as many of our other leaders.
Yeah, well, I'm really impressed by that because I've heard it from John. It's just like he has like a really compelling story behind, and he has almost kind of like his own brand within the company and everything.
Certainly.
And I think that's how guys like, I don't know, I see other companies where maybe they don't have like a strong culture like that, and guys don't feel like they're growing and creating their own brands.
But what is your personal brand, right? I mean, I think that's a question, like how are you going to define your personal brand? And, you know, for listeners, maybe that's a takeaway for them. What is your brand? And I hope it's on a strong foundation. The Solar Killers, like if somebody is called that out there, like I'd be like, is that really the brand that you want? You know what I mean? Like I don't know. Like, sorry if I offended anybody, but you know what I'm saying? It's like, what's the foundation and bedrock, and is it tied to a lasting principle or principles that truly are a bedrock foundation for you? And I think that's like, you're always, anything you do, you're building your personal brand.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, no, that's good for, you know, people trying to start their own organizations. I know I don't think I would think about that. Just like the mission statement, I've been with, you know, companies who didn't have really any mission statement, who didn't have like that story behind it. So I think that's really cool, and something that I've seen has helped you guys have a lot of growth and create a really good culture.
Thank you.
But yeah, I want to talk about, I know you guys have gone through some challenges, just like every company. You've been through ups and downs at Legacy, and I know you guys had like the whole, Sunder thing, guys breaking off, doing their own company. So I don't know if you're open to talking about like some of the ups and downs you guys have gone through, and I know that was a big one. Like, how do you overcome some of these ups and downs? I know solar's changing all the time. So do you have any advice for people who are like trying to build? Like, how do you like weather these storms and overcome?
Yeah, I think in business, ups and downs happen.
Yeah.
Markets change.
Yeah.
Times change. Like, I'll go back in time a little bit. Think about 2008. I don't know how many listeners remember 2008 and experienced it, but it was crazy. I remember the Lehman Brothers going bankrupt, and banks going out and everything. We went into this massive recession, right? And so businesses had to pivot and shift and grow, and it was a challenge in economic times. I look at interest rates this year. It's impacted the industry. You come and dealer fees have increased, and cost of capital's gone up, and it's created a lot of pressure and strain across multiple businesses. Some has seen, some has not seen. Some entrepreneurs, are putting on this strong face, but behind the scenes they're really struggling, and it's really heavy. And so really, as I look at the landscape, and I look at all these different areas, and I look at all of these different entrepreneurs and how they've been struggling, and where things change, I think what's really important is that you take the situations, you take the whatever challenges, and you find a way to overcome. Because some of these things are out of our control.
Yeah.
But what are you doing to overcome? And people, what happens if somebody ends up working with you and they no longer are?
Yeah.
Sometimes people do it in a way where it's straight up, and they say, hey, I'm no longer working with you, and sometimes they just disappear.
Yeah.
And it can happen either way, and I've seen it many different ways over 20 years, right? And how do you handle that? Like, how do you, if somebody was working with you one day and then suddenly they're not anymore, how are you going to handle that? And how do you get through it? And I think part of the word legacy is resilience. Like, we've just been resilient. We've been able to overcome obstacles. But is that really different from any other business? But I mean, I can tell you tons of examples of things we've had to overcome. Las Vegas shut down. I don't know if you remember that. It was in maybe 2017 or something, but they shut down the whole state.
Yeah.
That was 40% of our business.
Really? I didn't know that.
Shut down. We had to be resilient. We had to pivot our guys and shift to other markets, and that shut down. South Carolina went through legislation. That was a big part of our business. We went through that. We went through the ABP in Illinois, where we got shut down in Illinois and could no longer, and then happened to many other companies as well. And so we had to pivot and shift and lost people as a result of it. But I think, like, for anybody listening, challenges will come in your life. Some are in the forms of people, some are in the form of maybe it's family, maybe it's addiction, maybe it's mental health. Like, there's stuff that comes at every one of us as people. And I think our ability to understand what can we control, what's within our control, it's our effort and our attitude.
That's true.
I teach it to the kids on the ball field, I teach it to our sales reps, but that's what we can control. And how do you pull yourself out of something bad just happened to me? How do I say, what's my role in it? Learn from where you went wrong, be honest with yourself, don't be self-deceived, learn from it, and get better as a result of it.
Yeah, that's huge. And we all, especially us on the doors, it's like sometimes a customer cancels or whatever, and we think it's the end of the world. I just lost out on my biggest commission ever. Like, big deals canceled, things like that. But yeah, you've gone through like massive things, like entire market at 40% a year, like volume all of a sudden.
Yeah, it shuts off one day, or people that, and many entrepreneurs, salespeople, they're facing the ups and downs, but like, enjoy the journey. Like, people have to understand that's the journey, the ups and downs. And when you zoom out, you're like, oh, these dips and these lulls and these hardships, it's part of our growth. And Sunder, you brought that up. Like, I've had to reflect on this a lot. What was my role in it? I can choose to be the victim over it, of so-and-so did this, that, and the other, or I can just say, what's my role in it? What was my part in this? What do I have to own, and how do we get better? And we got better as a result of it. We're a better organization having gone through that, but that was a big change. And so there's no ill will, there's no hate there, there's no, whatever that is. It's like, I've moved on, we've got better, I hope they're successful, and we move forward.
That's awesome. Well, yeah, that's some pretty big challenges, and I'm sure it all kind of shapes you guys, and I guess what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, and you guys are coming out on top for sure.
100%. You have to, right? Yeah. That's part of the journey. So
yeah. How were you feeling? Like, some of these challenges though at the time? Like, I know you've been through a lot. What were your thoughts at the time? Were you feeling super discouraged? Because I'm sure.
Yeah, heavy. Heavy anxiety, stress. Yeah. I think these are all words that we all understand in our own ways. And have I felt those? Yeah. Have I felt betrayal? Yeah, I felt betrayed at times. Have I felt hurt? Yes. Have I felt heavy? Yes. I felt all of these things. But it's how quickly can we identify those feelings, deal with those feelings? You have to deal with them, and find the lesson that you need to learn from the situation, and how do you move forward? Like, that process, for some people, they get caught up in that process and they get stuck and they become victims. Yeah. And their story becomes one of victimhood, of I'm a victim, I'm a consumer, look at everything that happened to me, oh, poor me. But the people that rise to the top are the people, I think, that deal with that, put it in their place, learn and grow, and continue to climb. Yeah. And take any example of anything. I'm gonna mess his name, Eric Weinauer, I think. He's the blind guy who climbed Everest. Like think about this story. Blind guy climbing Everest. That's unbelievable. He could have been a victim, of his eyesight and can't do things. He goes and climbs Everest. That's crazy, right? Yeah. But he took what was a hardship for him, he built on it, and became great. I think, how many other stories of that are there, of dealing with failure or challenge, and the book Failing Forward, or a lot of principles here. But and I think that's the people who are winning, especially in solar. I've gone through some situations where missed out on pay. Installers stopped paying us just kind of recently, unfortunately, and I know that's kind of the unfortunate side of solar. Is you've seen it too, companies disappearing, small dealers going under, installation companies just not paying out people. So it's unfortunate, but it's funny, as I've gone through some of these things, some of the reps that complain the most, they're the ones that are owed maybe 10 grand or something from all this, and then the guys that are owed hundreds of thousands, they just went and started something else and completely replaced that. And yeah, of course we're all frustrated and everything, but I think the guys who are winning are just okay, that sucks, but just try to not think about it and just move forward and do everything you can. It seems like that's something that's helped you too, is I'm sure, yeah, you're frustrated, it was heavy, but you feel it was just pretty quick. You recognize that and you're all right, I just gotta do what I can control. And yeah, I remember, that situation when some people left our organization that we talked about a little bit. Luke, my business partner, broke his back playing pickleball.
Well, pickleball.
He broke his back playing pickleball. Wow. He lunged on a shot, he blew a disc, and the disc ended up breaking off a piece of vertebrae in his back, and his legs went numb. So he went into the hospital, 7 days, was in the emergency room because he couldn't walk. They ended up getting into surgery and found this thing that was wedged in there. But that was the same time that, that other company started. Yeah. And a lot of people left. Yeah. And I look at it, so Luke, from his bed in the hospital, is texting, trying to see what's going on. People have gone dark, nobody's talking to us. And yeah, you think like heavy, broken back in the hospital, and like you just lost hundreds of people, just walked out the door. How do you recover from that?
Yeah.
Like, what do you do? What do you feel in that moment? Yeah, it was despair and heavy. But Luke, and it's one of the greatest things about my partner Luke, he will outwork anybody. And from his back in his hospital bed, was texting and calling and figuring it out, and we started building. And rather than being victims, it was immediately back to work and back to the grind and hustle and grit and determination. And you know, you look at us now, we're top 10 installer in the country now, and you know, thousands of salespeople across 26 states, driving volume. You know, we installed 128 megawatts last year. We've installed 70,000 solar accounts in our career, and you know, that puts us in the top 10 companies all time ever in solar, and that's rewarding. That's cool. We've done a lot of good. We've impacted a lot of lives, and I think something that many people miss in solar, it's not just red lines or adders or commissions or anything. We legitimately are making the world a better place. And so that's one of the things that I think unifies us as an industry. You know, when we lost people, went through hard things, they stayed in solar, they're growing, we're doing good for our world. We're like, this is bigger than me, it's bigger than legacy, it's bigger than any one company or one person. We truly are making the world a better place. The carbon emissions that we're reducing, the air quality that we're improving, the water conservation that we're doing from producing clean, renewable energy are the things that I don't think get talked about enough, because we truly are doing good, and I think that's something that should unite all of us in the solar industry.
Yeah, and I think for listeners, that's something we don't think about a ton. I know a lot of us think about the commissions and how much money there is, but I know a lot of people and so like you gotta have that deep belief in the product, right? And it's like if you don't have that, then the customer's gonna sell you when they're only saving $10 a month, and they don't think it's worth it to go solar. Like, what else are you gonna tell them?
Yeah, it's like, oh, this is savings, and you know, we're just pitching savings. I'm like, let's stop, you guys. Like, think about this. Germany, a large percentage of their population has solar, and when somebody gets solar on their home, they get a heat pump, they get a battery, they get an EV charger, they get solar, and they pay like 90,000 euros for it. Like, but it's a package deal, and that's what you get. Like, that's how it's sold, and I think like it's not a savings proposition. This is an electrification of the home and transforming our grid, transforming the way that we produce and consume power. This is the electrification era that we're at the beginning stages of. And like, I think we majorly lose sight of what we're doing.
Yeah, for sure. Yes, but especially sales reps, especially in California, I think, because, well, now we got, you know, NEM 3.0 going on, but you look at California and now we like all these reps are freaking out, losing their minds. They have to like add a battery. So it's like we're
they're freaking out because they lack education. That's what it is. They're freaking out. They lack education and they feel threatened, so they get all panicky. And I understand that. I understand change is hard, and so we went at it and we just said we're going to get educated on this. We've spent countless time, hours, effort getting options, and so I think for any listeners that are confused about it, call us.
Yeah, I know, and I know a lot of people like small dealers. I've even had people that are just kind of running one-man shows out in California, like reach out to me and be like, dude, I think I need to join with like a big organization. I have no idea. There's a lot of fear around, so I
think like whether they join with us or not, I think come find out like how we're approaching it. Come find out how we're pivoting it. Come find out and learn about, you know, what it actually is. Because once you learn, it's not actually that scary.
Yeah, I agree. So yeah, I want to talk a little bit. I know you guys are doing a couple new things here at Legacy. You're doing some of your own installs. You guys got some cool stuff that's being rolled out. So I want to ask you about that, and then just finish with some stuff that might help, like, you know, just individual sales reps out on the doors. You guys are starting to roll out your own installs. I know for a long time in California, you just had like installation partners and everything. So for you, like, where do you think the market's headed? And I mean, why is it now you're kind of starting to roll out your own installs and everything in these different markets? What do you think's
number one, we have had many great install partners. We have many great install partners, and they all know who we are and what our roadmap is for expansion. So I call that out because I'm very honest and straightforward with all of our installers about what our plans are. So about 18 months ago or so, we said we want to get into the install side. Why? A lot of people think it's money. Like, oh, it's about money. Like, unless you're doing major volume, you don't actually make more money installing. And the cash need to buy the panels and store them and inventory, warehouse, like taking like all the overhead that comes with it. You can make more money, but it has to be done at scale. It has to be done very methodically. And I think, so for us, it wasn't actually about money and doing it for money. It was about controlling the customer experience. And how could we create an app where the customer, the sales rep, the installer, all were in clear communication one with another to understand where the left hand's connected to the right hand. Because I've seen at times where how many reps have said to you, I don't know where my project is?
Yeah, all the time.
Right?
Wow.
How many customers have been frustrated because they don't know what's happening?
Yeah, it's a big problem for sure.
I saw it, so he said, look, if we can take a little bit more control and control the communication, we felt we could provide a superior customer experience by connecting everything. And so now, what do? We have automated emails going out to our sales reps and to our customers at every stage of the installation process. We have an app for the customer where they can see where their project stage is and they can message our customer care team. We have an app where they can add referrals, and those referrals can get routed back to the sales rep immediately with full transparency. We have technology solutions that connects it. We have even our knocking app allows sales reps, setters, to see where the stage of where their deal is regardless of who the closer is. That's been a big problem for setters that we heard, like, so-and-so's my closer and so-and-so's my closer, and I gotta call each of these individual closers to find out where my job is. So we gave the setters full visibility of their own pipelines. And so there's a lot of things I think that we've done to help simplify and really take care of the customer. And I think us taking on installation was part of saying, okay, we want to control the customer experience. We want to make sure we're doing everything we can to get them to PTO as quickly as possible so that they can start saving like what they'd hoped. And so those are some of the reasons why is really controlling that customer experience. Remember our mission statement. Our mission statement is to create an extraordinary customer experience. Is at the beginning, and that's something that we felt that we wanted to really focus on, drive home.
That's huge, and I know pretty much every company has these problems. Like, yeah, I have setters reaching out to me on my team, so that's something like I've had to create my own process around that. Like, I have an assistant that kind of reaches out to customers and everything. But I think that's awesome that you guys went and actually created solutions for that. And it's not everyone's going to have those resources and be able to make like an app for their company and do all that. But I think for whoever's listening, it's important to have something in place, just because I don't think you can build like lasting and long term where, we get to a point where it's like so much reaching out to customers, everyone wants updates. So it's like what systems, what processes do you make around that?
And I'm a firm believer that the industry for so long has thrown people at problems. Like, that's what we've done as an industry. We've thrown people at problems and add more people to these problems, whereas we believe that technology is the solution for many of these problems.
Yeah.
People being on the same page shouldn't be more people, it should be more automation. And so that's what we've really doubled down on, that I think is a competitive advantage in the market, is to say, look at the software suite of tools to make your lives easier.
Yeah.
And that's really how we've tried to differentiate ourselves from some, is saying we have proprietary software we built in-house with our engineering team. And that means maybe I'm not taking home as much money or, those types of things, but we're investing into a platform because we want to scale. We're not done.
Yeah.
We feel like we've just got started.
Yeah. Well, I'll probably save you like how many extra customer support people do you have to hire that would have been like
all those things,
sending up, calling customers and all that, where now it's just sounds like it's automated pretty much.
Automate as much as you can. Yeah. That's my advice to anybody out there.
Yeah, that's super smart. Well, with your install partners, this is something I've like wondered, is you go to these install partners, you tell them like, hey, look, we're kind of like starting to do our own installs. I don't know if that's like, did people get upset about that you're like taking away from their volume, or like, what's like the conversations you have behind the scenes?
Some have. You know, a little while ago, one of our big installers didn't like that we were getting into their lane, and they dropped us. It was on social media, and a lot of people like talked about it, of like so-and-so dropped, you know, legacy as an installer, and they were doing a lot of our volume. But, you know, when getting dropped, we were honest with them. We told them exactly what we were doing. It didn't go over quite well, and they ended up dropping us, despite saying they wouldn't, and that they were fine with it. When push came to shove, they were, and things went south. But I've got many examples of partners today where I said, hey, we're going to enter into this, but we're not going to be doing all of our volume, and we want to maintain healthy relationships. And we've been able to scale and grow with them. And we're big believers in forecasting with our partners, providing them a forecast of how much volume that we think we'll be doing with them, and trying to hold to that. So as we ramp our installation volume, we believe we can outsell our own capacity, and we can provide more volume to other installers, and that will forever be a part of our model. We'll never install 100% of our own jobs, because we'll always be expanding and growing into new markets, and so we'll need partnerships. So we very much do well with installers and companies that are in an abundance mindset, that we say, how can we all win together, and how can we collaborate, and how can we figure out this together? It's worked really well with some, and some it hasn't worked well with. But I wish them all success, no matter if, you know, things went south or not. I hope they're all successful.
Well, and you guys that are a big organization, because I know this is something that's a big problem in our industry, is these guys will go out like summer teams, be dealers, and they'll be like, oh, we think we're doing, I don't know, 20 deals a week or whatever. If they bring a huge summer team out, then they like blow it out of the park, or doing way more deals than the install company is like, EPC is like, oh crap, we can't like fulfill all these, and then they start, their timeline slows way down, then it's like switching to another one, such as like, you know, having been with multiple dealers now, sometimes it's like, that's a big problem being a dealer.
We talked about being the victim a little bit, but I'll go back to this a little bit. How many salespeople truly say, I'm accountable, or leaders or company leaders, I'm accountable for the forecast that I give to my EPC or my installer, and I'm accountable to these people, and that accountability is deeper than the money. For example, you said somebody goes out, they recruit a big team, they go and scale. Did they provide their EPC with a forecast months in advance of how many people they would have, what their per rep average was, to get to a number of sales by month that they were going to have, so that they can plan accordingly for the staffing levels that they need? So doesn't it come down to the forecast of the salesperson more than it does even the EPC? And I think that's what salespeople miss is, oh, the EPC can't keep up. What's their problem? Well, did you provide a forecast? Did you blow your forecast out by 100%? Well, what do you expect? You know, are you a rah-rah sales guy or a rah-rah sales person leader, or are you a business professional that can call their business within a 10% variance high or low on a monthly or yearly basis to volume?
Probably.
That's the next level for people of saying, I'll just do as much as I can, as fast as I can. That's my goal. And I'm like, yeah, that's a great goal, and that's like a good rah-rah sales leader, like congratulations. But why don't you evolve and become a business leader that statistically is understanding how much volume they'll do based off of headcount per rep average?
That's huge. Like, as you guys are finding these, I don't know if you're over that, or you like go look for install partners. I'm sure you got people helping and everything, but how do you guys, where you're a big organization, let's say you forecast and you tell them, hey, we think we're going to be doing this much. How do you know that the EPC is going to like be able to fulfill on that? Do you guys like take a look under the hood and make sure they got things set up correctly, or how do you kind of vet these install partners you guys have?
Yeah, I think vetting an install partner, number one, is philosophically aligning. How many people sit down with their EPC and say, let's talk about our goals and your goals, how they align, how they come together, what volume do you need, do you have other dealers, how much volume are they doing, what are you forecasting, and having a conversation, right? What's the principle that we're going on? Because look, as an installer, one crew can install about one job a day. In some markets, maybe two a day if they're really good or whatever, but most crews one a day. So roughly 20 a month. So how many crews do you need for the volume? You could back into it how many installs per day and what's the capacity. And if you're going to beat the capacity of one of your partners, then if you give them a forecast far enough in advance, they can go and hire additional crews and people to fulfill that need. But if it's just seasonal, well, what about these crews and their families? Do we think about them, or is it just about our sales and commissions? What about the family that gets hired on to come on and be a part of a crew for the summer, but they were told that they'd have a year-round career, and then all of a sudden the installer has to lay them off because all the sales reps are done and they made all their money? Well, what about the installers' families? Do we think about them? And that's where forecasting really comes in, of be a good partner. Be a good sales partner to the installers' families. Think about them.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's a good point. I didn't think about that. Probably most sales reps don't. It's just like, hey, why aren't they getting the job done? But yeah, it's something we don't think about.
Yeah, and something we've done is we've leaned into retail because Q4, a lot of the summer programs die off. Retail picks up in Q4. So as we spike in retail during that Q4, do some virtual sales and some other things, we can supplement that sort of Q4 lag, that rather than this bell curve of production going up and down, we can maintain it. And so, those are some things how we're evolving as a business, having sales through multiple channels. A sales partner channel, we're an EPC for sales partners now, and people are becoming aware. We've got our direct program that's ripping and doing awesome, and kind of the key area of our business. We have virtual sales now. So we have 50 agents calling downstairs from this floor, and they're calling every day, setters and closers. And then we've got retail ripping leads in from the Home Depot. So we're continuing to evolve and grow our business on a national basis, and I think that's important as a business. Of how do you evolve and grow and get sales coming in from multiple different channels over time?
Yeah, that's huge. Well, no, you guys are crushing it, man. And as we start wrapping up here, I can't end the podcast without asking you about your partnership you guys got going on with the Utah Jazz. Because I told you before, I'm a huge Jazz fan. My first kid is named Stockton, for John Stockton. My second kid is Miller, after Larry H. Miller. So we love the Jazz. So how did you guys?
Well, first off, as soon as we get back out next year, I want to host you. So there's an official invite publicly. We'll treat you right. So there's official. You hold me accountable now.
So it's on record. Yeah. I think you're how did you guys get in touch with the Utah Jazz? I've never seen solar companies. Maybe it's a thing, but I haven't really seen solar companies partnered with NBA teams or whatever. Is it out of that whole thing come about?
Yeah, it's really Luke. I got to give a lot of credit to Luke, greatest business partner ever. I love the guy so much. Luke is a people person. His strength is how he loves people and how hard he works. And we decided to get a few tickets to the Jazz games. That'd be great. But, he loves the Jazz. He says he's their number one fan, but he didn't name his kids after the Jazz. So, but he was in there. We had a few tickets, and Luke took care of all of the people. Administrative people, ticket people. I remember going to one game and the security guard allowed us to exit in this private exit place to miss the crowds, and I'm and it's the players exit or something. And I was like, what is happening? And they're like, oh, you're with Luke, you can go. The next game I was there without Luke, and the security said, who are you? And I'm what do you? Well, I know Luke. He's like, nobody goes out this way. And I'm like, what in the world? But the guy just builds relationships everywhere. It doesn't matter what role somebody is. Doesn't matter what they're doing. He's kind. He's generous, and that really is how the partnership started. He built a great relationship with the Utah Jazz and people from top to bottom, and then when they sort of restructured how they were doing their partnerships and the categories, they wanted them to be exclusive to one company so they could really help build the brand and partner. Their executives, they really talk about this, we want partnerships in the local community. We don't just want sponsorships or just throw your bread. How can we help your business, and how can your business help us, and how can we really partner? I love what Ryan's done with the community and his community feel, and you look at what he did with the All-Star game, and they really do want to support Utah local businesses here. And so for us, the category of solar became available, and they said, this is what the package is. Here's the seats. Here's some of the assets that, we want, branding, the club, which is really, really fun. Like there's the Legacy Club and dining experience for everybody, and the tickets are all Legacy, and there's various other things. There are email campaigns, and we're the sponsor of the All-Star games, and we get to use, the arena, and we have the club we can go into even when games aren't playing during, business hours. We can schedule time up there. So like there's a lot of perks. And that partnership has really helped us say, hey, how can we build a household name? When our people are closing around the country, they can say, oh yeah, we're partnered with the Utah Jazz, a Utah-based company. And it just adds credibility that we're not a fly-by-night company. And I think a lot of brands, they partner with professional sports team to really start to become a household name. And that's what we want to do, and we want to keep growing. And so grateful, amazing organization. I think we're going to bring a championship home in a couple of years. It's happening. We're building towards it. This was step one. Didn't make the playoffs, but we got some amazing pieces. Very grateful to the Utah Jazz. Grateful to Luke for making that partnership happen, and we look forward to an amazing future as partners with their team.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, and hopefully you guys got any other partnership sponsor. I heard Utah's thinking about getting like MLB and stuff.
Yeah, it's awesome, man. Like I love that Utah's getting on the map. I'm a huge fan of Utah. I've seen what Ryan's been able to do, and I want to, he's an amazing businessman and done some incredible things, but I want to learn from him of how can I support our local community here as best as I can, and so as other opportunities become available, we'll certainly evaluate it.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, cool. Well, just to wrap up here, Doug, if people want to learn more about Legacy, connect with you more, potentially looking to join a team, stuff like that, what's the best way to do that and reach out to you guys?
Anyway, I think it's just reach out, right? Like I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on Instagram, our Instagrams are out there, our company ones or my personal one. I think people can find us on Facebook or, any of these different ways, just reach out. If you have a question, don't hesitate. People sometimes are like, oh, Doug, I didn't want to reach out to you, whatever. I'm like, what do you got to lose? We knock on doors for a living.
Yeah.
Come knock on our door. Come find out what we're all about. Come see what we're all about. And look, if everybody recruits and tries to grow their business, but whether somebody works for me or not, I want to be collaborative with them. I want to build relationships with people because you never know.
Yeah. Well, and I love that. Legacy is a huge organization, and a lot of times guys don't know leaders, their CEO and everything. But I've talked to guys that are just sales reps that haven't even been at Legacy forever, and a lot of them will talk to you personally and know you. And so it's cool that you still have your big company, but I think in a lot of ways you guys still kind of have that personal feeling.
Well, I've been a door knocker. I think that's different.
Yeah.
Many of the CEOs of installers haven't knocked doors.
Yeah. That's a good point.
Large scale installers, many of them haven't knocked doors and they don't really understand that. Maybe they went out for a day or something, but not a career of it.
Yeah.
I knocked doors for 15 years.
Yeah.
Built sales teams, did the grind, and so I never forget. I try to never forget the grind of what it takes to go out and do door to door. Most people can't do it.
Yeah.
Most people don't have what it takes to do it. And so I think it's a really unique skill set, and I try to remember and just honor the people that go door to door, whether with me or anywhere else, honor them because it is freaking hard.
Yeah.
And I think I know that, and I think that's some of our secret sauce.
Yeah, definitely helps. Do you ever get back on the doors every once in a
Yeah,
while?
I'll go out there. I don't sell in my own name or go out and all day and selling to break a record or those types of things today. But I'll get out there with guys and go get some leads with them and stuff, and I love it.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, Doug, it's been awesome, and appreciate you making the time for this because I know you're a busy guy. And we actually planned on doing it yesterday, but he's like, oh, I got to call with some Japanese bankers or something. I know you got a busy schedule, so it's been awesome picking your brain, having you on for a little bit. So just to wrap up, I know we focus kind of on a lot of bigger picture things, building mission statements, importance of that, behind the name, behind the brand. So for people who are just maybe starting out in sales, just starting to hit their own doors, what advice would you have for someone that's just kind of starting out in solar? having gone through all those years and building teams, what do you think could help a new guy starting out in solar?
Be active.
Okay.
Don't be a victim. Move. Take action. Go. See a lot of people that think that they're hard workers. I think people should really look at the definition of hard work. Like, what is hard work? What does it really look like? And go and work hard and immerse yourself in it and don't quit when it gets hard. You know, I coach baseball, like my kids' baseball teams. I'm really involved. Like, think about the game of baseball. It's a game of failure. Right? Like, people use these analogies over all the time. If you hit 3 out of 10 and you bat 300 in the major leagues, you'll make millions and millions and millions of dollars. That means you're failing 7 times out of 10. Like, you are failing. And it's like, how do you deal with a game of failure? Like, baseball is such an incredible game mentally, but I think it's applicable to sales. Like, how many times will a door-to-door person fail? Let's look at the numbers. Let's make it statistical like baseball, right? How many doors will a sales rep knock on in a day and seemingly fail? Like 100 doors on a day they knocked and didn't get one lead? Like, that's happened. That happens. Like, you think about that, that's hard to face rejection like that. Like, I knocked 100 doors and got nothing, and you can feel defeated. In the game of baseball, you can feel defeated. And one of the things we talk to the players about are, how do you find little wins that may not be a hit? Did you hit the ball hard? Did you swing at a ball outside of the zone? If you did, you need to be accountable and be more disciplined as a hitter. If you hit the ball hard and it goes foul, it's a strike. That's bad for you. But if you hit the ball hard, no, you won. You versus the pitcher, you won. So finding the small things, and I think as door knockers, we have to do the same thing. Did we keep the door open a little bit longer? Did we engage and get a spouse to come to the door when it wasn't going to happen so we could engage with them? Did we, like, how do we find the little wins and build upon that? So my advice is to take action, to work hard, not be lazy. If an appointment falls through as a closer, go to the next door, like across the street, next door, and go and knock that door, and don't have a pity party and go back and be depressed in your car. Oh, they're not home, I got no-showed, awesome, I'm gonna go to the neighbor. Hey, I was in the neighborhood, here I am, like, let's talk solar, like, let's go. And I think that, like, relentless attitude, I think it's missed oftentimes, and I think people get victimized a lot, and I think incomes would go up. I think they would be happier and more fulfilled if they would take more action and get rid of the laziness.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, that's a nugget for sure. And yeah, I've seen it time and time again. That's what separates the top reps from averages. They're out there hustling. They're thinking of it like that. Like you said, game of baseball, and they're not having the pity party when stuff doesn't go their way. Roll with the punches.
The principles are taught in a lot of places. Coach Wooden, in one of his books, talks about the pyramid of success. And one of the corners is industriousness. It's this idea of hard work, like, you know, and then the other side is enthusiasm. You got to have enthusiasm and you have to be industrious, and that takes you up to the top of the pyramid, which is competitive greatness, which is being at your best when your best is needed. And so I think the pillars are work ethic and enthusiasm, industriousness and enthusiasm, to get to this crown of competitive greatness. And so I love his books, and I've learned a lot from Coach Wooden.
Yeah, that's awesome. Sweet. So guys, everyone listen to this podcast, focus on those fundamentals, have a good attitude, roll with those punches, and I mean, you guys have done it in your organization. I think that's something that's talked about top to bottom that I've seen with Legacy, you guys at your company. So I appreciate having you on today, Doug, and I can't wait to see what you guys do next. Congrats on the success, and hopefully we can have a follow-up. Maybe we'll do a podcast at Utah Jazz and hear the court in the background. But
awesome, that sounds great. I'd love to.
Okay, so guys, reach out to Doug, let him know you thank him for coming on the show today. Again, Doug, we'll talk soon.
Okay, thanks.
Okay.